Hi, everyone. This is Mary Kurek with Frontrunners Innovate magazine, and I have with me today Aaron Smith. And Aaron is an author, twice over, I believe. We'll get to that in a few minutes. In the field of education and disruption, if you will, or how to do things differently and maybe better. Long history in the education world, particularly in the admin space, which just really makes him just a very special human being when it comes to delivering the right kind of information that we need to hear, because he's getting it from the inside out, from both the the administration part and also the students, which is very valuable. So we want to talk to him about his books in a minute and where he's going with that. But I want to get a little bit of his background first so that you get the chance to get to know him, and then let's find out what he has in his brain that we need to know about education, particularly during pandemic. So welcome, Aaron. Thank you for being with me.
I'm Mary. So thanks for having me. I'm truly honored to be in the magazine. So to give you a little bit of background about myself is born and raised in Newport News, Virginia. So that is about 45 minutes from the Atlantic Ocean. But grew up, attended Christopher Newport University, where I started off as a math major. And during this time, I was an intern at NASA. So I was developing some cool projects such as helping integrate Netscape. That was back in the day for those that remember, but also importing programs from what was called an Onyx computer, which was a $110,000 computer, to a Dell. So that was some particular projects that I worked with. And through these experiences, I decided that I just wanted to be a teacher. Had great influences as a teacher, plus I still played sports. So, I majored in two things, if you will, baseball and math. So in between that, I became a math teacher at a middle school, taught 3 years at a high school, everything from algebra up to pre-cal, and really saw a lot of great things, a lot of great kids, but also a lot of great needs. And it was during that time that I became an administrator, because I was coached and really mentored into the position. Originally, I wasn't looking for it, but he said, "You got what it takes." And here we are decades later, still serving as an administrator, but also with an opportunity to see how workforce is developed and the importance of bridging academia to the business world, because there's a big gap. And I think a lot of times educators don't know the right questions to ask. And at the same time, I think businesses don't know how to approach and engage with clear and consistent communication to identify the skills and the resources that can help the schools make that transformation a lot better. And through these experiences, I've learned a lot about STEM, learned a lot about workforce development, and also about the future of learning and autonomous learning.
How useful is that during a pandemic, the autonomous learning piece?
It is incredible. Right now, I feel like everybody's is focused on that first level, is just making sure we're connected. And the digital divide is certainly probably the number one thing we need to think about, but we need to kind of expand beyond that. We have to understand that the way we learn is different from one another. It's just like our fingerprint. Your fingerprint is different than mine. And that does not mean that you learn the same way that I do. So when you identify your learning style, then you adapt the way that you take things in and the way things you share information. And then you become better at your game. You become better at the way that you develop and inspire others. From a teacher's perspective, they have to understand that kids are going to learn differently. We all have different strengths and weaknesses, but part of the problem is that we are still developing things in silos. We're not tying in workforce experiences, and we're still teaching canned lessons. And until we individualize things and develop this into our own learning styles and our own niches, our kids are never going to get the beginnings of autonomous learning.
You mentioned something, it was a word that I had never heard of before when we first spoke, and it was in the vein of like internships, but it was, what was it, externships?
Externships.
What is that,
yes.
Actually?
So externships are when teachers go out and they actually go, let's say, work at Canon, or they go work at the shipyard, and they actually gain on-the-job experiences that they take back in the classroom and they integrate it into the lesson plans. And the way that I think that learning should occur is you need to have two teachers. One teacher should be the regular teacher, in some cases a special ed or a collaborative teacher, but you need a professional from the industry who blends in the skills to the jobs that are out there in the community. And see, that's what creates the hook in people. That's what it creates a fire and makes their curiosity grow even more, rather than just doing the Charlie Brown wah 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 wah. You're truly doing some things that I think are unique.
I love that idea. I have not heard that before you mentioned it, and then I've heard it one other time after that, and I thought I really need to know what this is because this
Mm-hmm.
is sounding interesting. I felt like I was too dumb to ask it the first time.
No,
So,
no.
but and I bet there's other people out there that didn't know what it was. So this is good info. So from our previous conversation, also you indicated this is sort of the space that you've lived in, is those partnerships with outside of the school systems, and even to the point of understanding how to speak money to the people that can help fund some of the education programs that we have, whether that be, I guess, in public or private, wherever you need. Tell us a little bit about that area that you've spent so much time in, and how comfortable you feel with that, and what people maybe don't know about working with businesses.
Number one, everybody wants the schools to succeed. And, from that, it's connecting with the right person. But when you connect with the right person, you have to have pretty much a vision already developed that you share and create buy-in from the vision, and you make it stronger with your business partners. When you do that, you then unlock some serious potential. They could have money set aside for community relationships. They could create and co-sign with you opportunities for college studies. You can also go for major grants that are in the federal registrar. And the thing of it is, the more you collaborate and the more you can make it research-based that addresses the specific needs, such as women in STEM, such as addressing economically challenged situations, digital divide, teacher professional development, and you weave in the technology and you weave in some of the other things that are skill essential to the workforce, it increases your chances of getting grants.
That's interesting. I know last week I was asked by a community college in a neighboring county to come and do I love this, a life work balance.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, well, it was that people were there. They were just 6 feet apart. I didn't have to wear the mask because I was 6 feet apart from everybody else, and I needed to be able to do a presentation. I thought it was really weird. I was the one selected for that. But anyway, the woman who arranged this said they have really, I guess she's been there like 28 years. So they have really never had any money set aside for professional development for their own education and admin staff. And I thought, you kidding me? In that long a period of time, it seems hard to believe that there wouldn't be something. And she said she finally convinced them to put a budget together to be able to do this. And so she had a whole series for this fall that she was following. Yeah. And, I thought that was pretty amazing. And we make assumptions about, education systems and thinking that they have all these bases covered, and they really don't. So those partnerships, because she was reaching outside into the community for the facilitators and whatnot to partner with, those partnerships are real important to be able to do the things that you need to do. So I think that's a great area to focus on. Now, tell us about the books. Can you hold up, do the first one, sure. STEM. Okay. Yeah.
So the first one is called Awakening Your STEM School. And this really is a blueprint, if you will, for community leaders, for workforce development centers, for companies, as well as schools and parents to understand, no matter where you are in the spectrum, there's ways you can improve it. There's ways that you refine it, and there's ways that you can seek money and the resources to really change the way kids learn. The secret of it is to transform the teacher-centered to student-centered learning, because that's when students become creative. That's when students explore, discover, and it taps into future jobs. And it develops things such as makerspaces. It also invites opportunities such as mentors to come in from the community, from the local workforce, and actually have real one-on-one conversations about the products that the kids have developed. The part of the problem is that our schools are still focused on standardized testing. And to kind of set the record straight, in a way, I believe standardized testing is the right thing because that's how you still can measure the gaps, but it needs to be not everything in one pot. You have to recognize that if you focus on creating rigorous curriculum, inspiring lesson plans, and letting kids be kids and discovering and learning, the scores will be there. And we found that out where I worked at Aviation Academy. And this book right here basically is the secrets that I've learned that I hope that other people can cherish and use down the road.
That sounds wonderful. I love the idea of the STEM-centered sort of school in the sort of specialized education where you allow that creative freedom to bloom. So tell us about the next one. The most recent one just came out, like what, last week?
Okay.
Blank Check?
So yeah. So taking a different approach, this is a fictional book. This is called Blank Check. What if you were asked to help reinvent public schools? And I purposely wrote this as a fiction book because if you were to write the perfect public school from a research base, nobody would buy it. And the reason for creating fiction is because we want to create dialogue in the community. We want the community to feel empowered. And the way that they felt empowered in the story is when a burnout principal and a troubled teen, we're talking about a teen who overcomes an opioid crisis, teens who never get say in education decisions, and teens that need to understand that their responsibility really begins in school. Taking those three themes and weaving it into a philanthropist's blank check allows them to basically regrow a community. And it stems from Frederick Douglass's expression, it takes a village to raise a child, but also you have to understand it is easier to train a child than it is to repair an adult. And when you go about that mindset, you're going to solve a lot more problems rather than fixing them and doing damage control. And that's what Blank Check is all about, is inspiring one community, one school, and one united front to show how parents need to be more active, not only in terms of helping their children, but showing them and leading the way that they are still learning in their jobs. For schools to take responsibility in the way that they teach their children. For the communities to take responsibility and invest in the time and the resources in modeling the best practices that are out there in the workforce. And through this blended synergy that's developed, this should be the new norm. This should be the way education is taught, whether it's distance learning or whether it's face-to-face.
Well, tall order, but I give it a check mark. I definitely like that. It's a mindset shift and paradigm shift, if you will. And I think it has to start somewhere, and why not with you? But the books are only like the one segment of what you do, or one piece of what you do to try to help these systems. Talk about your consultancy and let us know, from a standpoint of a school system or an educator or someone who's on the peripheral area of education, whether that be here or somewhere else around the globe, what would they be able to receive from you? What benefit would they be able to get from you by working with you?
If I'm fortunate enough to work with a client, number one is I want to make sure I sit down and listen to exactly all their needs and have an open and honest relationship and say, this is what I can do, such as this is my area in training people, showing how to train people the right way, showing how to identify specifics in skills that need to be retaught, or showing how to access resources, implementing and integrating 3D printing for additive manufacturing. Also referencing things such as virtual reality and training and scenarios like that. And that's the beauty of being an educator, is that it gives me flexibility to really fit a lot of models and needs that people have. So it could be for K-12, it could be for college, it could be for post-secondary in terms of training. It could be for the military. If I think there's a way we can bridge it, that's part of what I love doing, is finding a way to make it happen.
So from the standpoint of programs that, and charters, if you will, for moving forward, I know that some of what we're talking about might even get into policy for sure, and get into the little edgy areas that everybody goes, make me change that. You're able to work with them to make those changes and to kind of transition through those changes, and also where programs might be necessary for training or whatever, you're able to help them develop that out, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And part of my background also has been to Capitol Hill, where I've talked to senators and representatives about career and tech ed things and the importance of STEM. And on the state level is helping them understand why certain endorsements were necessary for this particular cause. So it's making sure that we can relay this in a way that they can understand and translate that into legislation, which makes it more accessible for the next year.
A lot of stuff going on there, and I just think it's wonderful. I love to see I love to see education moving in this direction. I kind of felt all along that was kind of where we need to move. And as I started putting together this edition of the magazine, I've talked to others that were in different areas of that space, if you will, of the education space, and all of them are thinking like you. Not everybody's approaching it from the same perspective, or doing the same sorts of things, but they're falling in line with that more specific, creative end of education, and not a one-size-fits-all type of perspective. And I'm not sure if that's just been coming all along, or if the pandemic just sort of went poof, here we are. Now's the time to be trying this out. But I think whatever it is, I think that's the right way to go. And the difference it's going to make, I think, is going to be amazing. And not only for the United States, if we can kind of move those thoughts around the globe a bit, and especially to areas where we're already struggling with how to do education, now's the time to fix it before we get back into, what would have been the norm. So I think this is fantastic. So thank you, Aaron. I appreciate it very much. And we can get your books on Amazon, yes?
Yes, ma'am. You sure can.
Okay. Well, we're going to drop the links in anyway, so people will make it easier for them. And good luck. And I know you're hitting the speaking circuit, so if you guys need a speaker on this subject, and virtual, I guess, for now, but reach out, and I'm sure Aaron will be able to help you. So thank you again. I appreciate it. And we'll be talking again soon. All right.
Definitely.
Take care.
Bye-bye.